everybody. I'm here with Haroon Ali today, and we're working on problem of the week number 4. And many of you know Haroon from his work masterminding the monthly enterprise DNA data challenges, but he's agreed to pull double duty this month, and he's got a great problem of the week for us. And so before we dive directly into that, I just wanted to ask Haroon kind of where he comes up with the ideas for these, because the thing that always strikes me about both the data challenges and this problem is they're immensely practical. That you look at them and you say, okay, that's either something I've come across before or something I could absolutely see the need to be able to do because it's a situation that will come up in the future. And that's definitely the case for number 4 here. And I just wanted to ask her kind of what experience you've had, or kind of how you approach development of these in coming up with such practical problems.
First of all, thanks for having me on, Brian. And really, all of the challenges, the solutions, etc., it's just literally stuff I've worked on. I'm pulling it straight out of industry. I've probably been working with Power BI now for about 4 years, and I've been in data for probably around 5. So started with your Excel, SQL-based stuff, and then kind of moved fully into Power BI in the last couple of years. And basically, the data challenges, I think probably are the first 10. I think 8 are actually projects that I've actually worked on. So a lot of the times I do have to change some of the data, just to basically protect myself from making sure that I'm not putting out anything that I shouldn't be in terms of anything that doesn't belong to me. So I know sometimes some of the data maybe doesn't make sense, but for me, it's just about knowing it's cookie cutting, it's patterns that I'm seeing over and over again, and I'm trying to bring them to the front. And I think I've heard it before, a lot of BI is just cookie cutting, it's understanding certain structures, certain data types, certain scenarios always go the same way. So I kind of look back on my experiences and I'm thinking, that this report or this data set caused me some trouble, and it's actually something I'm doing again and again. And that's kind of how I've been building the challenges up, is actually just focusing in on stuff I've probably struggled with in the past. So I've kind of got to a place where I'm kind of happy with it, and it kind of, now it makes for a good challenge. Let's see what others think of it. So that's kind of some of the process that goes into it.
Yeah, that's great. And you can definitely see that experience come through in the sophistication and the design of these challenges. So I want to jump into problem number 4. This one is intriguing for a number of reasons, and I want you to walk through, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it afterward.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen with this one. So again, this was something I was working on last year, and basically there was no way to capture data at the daily level. So everything was coming in either 2 or 3 months in. So it was more of a billing cycle rather than data capture. So if you think energy bills in the UK especially, you probably only get them every 3 months. But the actual requirement was to basically be able to report at a weekly level, and maybe sometime in the future, even go down to a daily level. So the information, as you said, is coming in. You've got the start date, which represents the start of the period, and the end date. So this billing period, for example, this first row is going from the 1st of the 10th to the 30th, so a couple of months, and then this is what we actually used, and this is what the emission was. Now, the ask was to actually, rather than just presenting it back as, right, between this period, this is how much you did, we want to be able to see this on a weekly level, and maybe in the future actually extrapolate and provide you some. So, for example, Monday needs to be double what Tuesday is, and Wednesday actually has 0 consumption. So maybe some rules. So even though the data capture isn't at a daily level, actually from our monthly data, we can kind of go back to it. So the solution this week. So, and I think there's loads of content on Enterprise DNA at the minute that kind of goes through something similar. So think about budgeting, finance stuff, you're kind of going to get your yearly forecasts, monthly forecasts, but you want to be able to break that down and apply it at a daily level. And I think the example Brian's just given me is sometimes you walk into a shop and you're buying something for $50. You don't always want to be paying in $200 or $100 bills. It's that ability to just say, actually, I'm going to start at the lowest grain and then I can always roll up. But if you start at a really high grain, rolling back down is actually quite difficult. And I think actually doing this in Power Query is also going to probably make your DAX easier. So I think a lot of the solutions at the minute on the Enterprise DNA portal handle this in DAX. So it'll be really interesting to see what you guys come up with in terms of creating this into a daily fact table.
Yeah, thanks, Haroon. And you hit on a number of I think really key and interesting points. One of which is, this sort of granularity mismatch comes up all the time. We see it on the forum a lot. I think anybody who deals with sales data or production data or financial data, you're going to run into that situation where you've got two different tables of different granularities. And I think you're absolutely right that this is something you definitely could do in DAX. The DAX is fairly complicated for this. I remember when I did the Enterprise DNA certification, and the last step in the certification is working with the granularity mismatches. And everybody who's done the certification that way says that was the hardest part of the process. And so I think what you've laid out here is an alternate way to do this, where you put in upfront work in Power Query, and it not only makes your DAX simpler, in some cases, it eliminates the need to do DAX at all on this. And so I think it makes for a really interesting and valuable challenge. Last thing is I wanted to ask you, something I ask everybody when we do these introductions, which is kind of a general tip or trick you've got for solving complex problems. So when you're faced with something like this, what's something you can offer folks that you found helpful?
It's not going to sound very conventional, but it's normally just taking a step away from the screen, Brian. I think with Google and all the resources we've kind of got available today, I think coming from university, I was the kind of person, when I had a problem, it'd soon be 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'm still working on the same thing. And I think what I've learned recently is actually sometimes stepping away, going to bed, or just doing something else for an hour is actually the best time. And kind of when you come back to a really complex problem, you've probably got 50 new ideas, rather than just chasing shadow. I think sometimes you can get stuck into a problem and you just start searching terms and you just start going round in circles. So for me, it's probably doesn't sound very helpful, but it's just stepping away. Just take 5-10 minutes, whatever works for you, really. But just step away from the screen. Even maybe just get a bit of pen and paper and say, write down, right, I'm trying to move step 1 to step 2. This is what I'm trying to do. And sometimes just writing out actually helps as well. So I think for me, it is two things. It's just sometimes taking a step away from your screen, from the problem, just forget about it for a while. And number 2, sometimes just write it down. Just write down what it is. I know you've probably heard that loads of times, but it seriously does help, and I've probably had to learn that the hard way after probably spending a few sleepless nights on a few problems, but it works. Like, seriously, my recommendation is sometimes just step away from a problem. It helps.
Yeah, I agree. My dad's got an expression that when you're in a hole, stop digging.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I feel like sometimes you can get kind of off on a bad track but keep pounding away at that same bad track. And I think your advice to just take a break and step away sometimes puts you on a much better path. So we're hoping definitely people find this one challenging and interesting. When we talked about it earlier today, we're extremely curious to see what you all come up with, because we've got a very similar way that we approach this one. But I'm sure there are a lot of different ways to do this, and I'm looking forward personally to learning some new approaches and how to solve this one. So with that, we'll turn it over to you all. Haroon, thanks very much for your time today, and
No worries.
also
Thanks all. Best of
for
luck.
Data Challenge 11. So we got a lot of Haroon coming this month, and so appreciate everybody's participation in these challenges, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks all.
Take care.